from the first programs to the awareness that was never 3 years old. There is a person you become in certain rooms. You know which rooms, the house you grew up in, or the house that replaced it. The specific configuration of family, the role you occupied, the role others occupied, the particular geography of affection and expectation and disappointment that organized your earliest understanding of what relationships are. You have decades of competence. You walk into a particular room. Something reverts. A self you thought you had left. Still there, waiting. You walk into those rooms now as an adult with decades of experience, with whatever competence and autonomy you have assembled, and something shifts, something reverts. A behavioral pattern activates that has not operated in weeks or months, a specific quality of tension in the body, a particular way of managing your speech, a self you thought you had outgrown. You had not outgrown it. You had left it dormant until the room reactivated it. The attachment system, the neurological structure that governs how we relate to others, how safe we feel in relationships, what we do under relational threat, is calibrated in the first 3 years of life. The primary caregiver is the calibrating instrument. Their responsiveness, their reliability, their emotional availability, their specific way of handling distress, all of this is read by the infant's developing nervous system and translated into a working model of what relationships are. Secure, responsiveness is reliable. The world of relationship is safe. Distress produces comfort. Anxious responsiveness is inconsistent. The caregiver is sometimes available, sometimes not, unpredictably. The attachment system learns, escalate distress to maximize the probability of response. The anxious attached adult, the person who amplifies distress in relationships, who needs repeated reassurance, who interprets silence as abandonment. Avoidant responsiveness is consistently suppressed or rejecting. The attachment system learns, suppress the need, which cannot be met by asking for it. The avoidant adult, the person who appears self-sufficient, but has learned to manage relational need by not having it. Disorganized, the caregiver is simultaneously source of comfort and source of threat. The attachment system has no coherent strategy. The response to relational threat is internally contradictory. The programmer was 3 years old. The programmer was doing their best with the tools they had. The tools were also installed when they were 3. These are not adult choices. They are programs installed when you were 3 years old, by a programmer who was themselves running programs installed when they were 3. The attachment pattern transmits across generations. The anxious parent, unconsciously, creates conditions that calibrate the child toward anxious attachment. Not through malice, through the only relational style available, the one installed before they had any capacity to evaluate it. The pattern reproduces itself in the next body. You are running your grandmother's code. And she was running her grandmother's code. The programmer was always 3 years old. The pattern doesn't just transmit between you and your caregivers. It transmits through you into every relationship you form. The attachment system reads relational cues with extraordinary sensitivity. A partner who is occasionally unavailable triggers the anxious attachment system, the same way the intermittent caregiver did. The trigger is pattern matching, not reality reading. The partner is not the caregiver. The attachment system does not make this distinction. It reads inconsistent availability. It responds, escalate. The person you love most is receiving the full force of a behavioral program that was written for someone else 40 years ago, in different conditions, by a 3-year-old who had no alternative. They are receiving your grandmother's solution to your grandmother's problem. So are you. Understand the pattern intellectually. Necessary, useful, insufficient. The amygdala does not process intellectual understanding. The pattern fires before the understanding can intervene. By the time you recognize the reactivation, you are already running the program. Work it through therapeutically, the slow, expensive, years-long process of revising the working model. Real. The nervous system does update, slowly, with sufficient corrective experience, and the original architecture doesn't disappear. It becomes less dominant. The pattern does not vanish. It loosens. Stay out of the rooms that trigger the reactivation. You cannot live there. The rooms are everywhere. The people who trigger the pattern are people you love. You cannot leave all of them without leaving your life. 3 exits. 3 sealed doors. In one frame, the room. The specific configuration of family you walk into. The reversion happening, something in your posture changes. Your voice shifts register. A younger self steps forward that you had believed was behind you. Real. Involuntary, embarrassing in its precision. In the other frame, the cremation ground. The 12 sisters eating the attachment patterns, eating the history of every anxious reach toward comfort that was sometimes met and sometimes not. Eating the working models that organized the first decade of your life. They are already consuming it. Time is already doing to the pattern what the pattern could not do to itself. Both frames are true. The room, the cremation ground. The same room. Chandogya Upanishad, Tattvamasi, that thou art. The awareness that is aware of the attachment pattern, that recognizes the room reactivation, that notices the behavioral reversion, that sees the program running, is not 3 years old. It was never 3 years old. It is the awareness that was present for the 3-year-old's experience, that received the first programming events. That has been present for every iteration of the pattern since. T.V. Amazi points here. The awareness in your caregiver, and the awareness in you, the same awareness. The programmer and the programmed, both expressions of the same consciousness, wearing different histories, running different patterns, producing different behavioral outputs, and at the most fundamental level, the same. The pattern will keep running. The rooms will keep reactivating it. The behavioral reversion will happen again. And the awareness present for the reversion was never a child. Has no attachment style. Has no caregiver it needed, and sometimes didn't get. The pattern will keep running. The room will keep reactivating it. And the awareness that knows the pattern is running was never 3 years old. The program runs in something that cannot be programmed. Begin from there. Each time. Again.